Things are not peachy in Georgia. The Republican Party is coming apart at the seams, and just in time for a presidential election. The DNC and the Democratic Party of Georgia are suing the Georgia State Election Board to prevent Trump's allies on that board from blocking the certification of the 2024 election. And it turns out the Democrats are not the only ones looking to take down this highly partisan board of hacks. Republicans are going after them too. We're going to unpack all the legal attacks on this board, but first, it's important to reflect on the origins of this particular version of the Georgia State Election Board. The whole image of Georgia as a Republican stronghold is an illusion created through successful voter repression on a level that rivals Jim Crow. Limiting precincts in urban areas and purging voter rolls are favorite but not exclusive tools in this state. But when Trump lost in 2020 and made his famous phone call instructing Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, to find 11,000 votes, the apple cart got turned over. Raffensperger refused, and Republican Governor Brian Kemp backed him up. It looked like integrity on their part, but it was calculation. They both knew if they found those votes, the media and the government would be going over Georgia voting integrity with a fine-tooth comb and reveal just how outrageous voter suppression is in the Peach State. So instead, the Republican legislature in Georgia went into overdrive and created laws to restrict voting and to give more power to the state election board to turn over the results of an election if it didn't like it. And it is important to note that Governor Brian Kemp signed those laws. He knew he was giving too much power to the election board, and he knew this was all about 2024. He signed it anyway. And P.S., guess who's endorsed Trump? And now the DNC and the Georgia State Democrats are suing because the state election board is already acting out of control. Led by 3 pro-Trump board members, they have stripped Secretary of State Raffensperger from chairing the board and passed a series of last-minute, unnecessary, and illegal rule changes in how elections are conducted. The Democrats' lawsuit is to ensure that Georgia's state election board doesn't turn a straightforward and mandatory act of certification into a broad license for any county board member to try and delay or block the certification of election results and the will of Georgia voters. But as I mentioned, the Democrats aren't the only ones taking legal action here. Republican Governor Brian Kemp has formally asked the state's attorney general on Monday for guidance regarding whether or not he has the power to remove state election board members. Kemp is responding to several complaints by voting rights groups, Democrats, and even some Republicans. One of those formal complaints comes from Democratic State Senator Nabila Islam Parks, who stated that 3 of the board members violated the Open Meetings Act and the State Code of Ethics. They didn't send out a notice to the public. They were warned by their own general counsel. They had it anyway. Kemp wants to take action because the Georgia Association of Voter Registration and Election Officials is complaining that changes the board adopted will create unnecessary confusion among both the public and the dedicated poll workers and election officials who are critical to ensuring a smooth and efficient voting process. Kemp knows these rule changes are designed to create failure so that Trump can spin his claims about election fraud that will in turn delay certification in Congress. As Trump so blatantly stated in 2016, just leave it up to my Republican Congress. So while Kemp's actions are laudable, it still means there is work to do. We have to ensure that the momentum of the Harris-Walz campaign turns into landslide victories that cannot be disputed. We need a blue tsunami And we need to remind ourselves of that every day until this election is over, and then work to make it happen. I'm Anthony Vincent Gallo for Occupy Democrats.